Okay. The reason I did this was that I had no idea how much work this was going to be.
Mm.
I really didn't. If you decide to do a Kickstarter, I consider it, and I was thinking about the math of it, like a 120-hour project. And
Oh,
I'll
wow.
tell you
Okay.
how that breaks down. Um, Kickstarter is a platform for raising funds for creative projects. You can't raise money for charities. You can't seek equity partners in it. It's got to be basically selling a product. People pledge, and no one pays anything until until the project funds. We have Rhonda coming. Hey, Rhonda, welcome with her Oracle 30-minute giveaway. So we're talking about what Kickstarter is, and we're recording this, Rhonda. And so it has to be a creative project. People use Kickstarter to raise money for things like bands. If the band wants to cut an album, people have raised money on Kickstarter to fund movies, millions of dollars. So that's what it's about. You pay nothing until it funds. It's free. When it does fund, they charge you a 5% management fee, which is reasonable. You also have to expect they're going to charge you a credit card fee, which is about 5% as well. So at any rate, it's about creative projects only. No one pays until it funds, and it is far, far, far more work than I realized going into it. And
Mhm.
earlier, for those who weren't here, I said I put it at a 120-hour process, and I'll tell you how that breaks down. A couple of basics about it. Uh, you charge for all these things I wasn't expecting, like shipping. You have the option of only selling in the US, or you can go worldwide. What's better? People generally say going worldwide is better, and I did that. I was concerned about how you do shipping costs, and Kickstarter allows you to break it down. I charge for my little deck, my little Oracle deck, $8 shipping US, shipping and handling, and $40 overseas. Uh, 25 in Canada. Canada postage is crazy these days. And believe it or not, people have added $40 on a $27 product to get it shipped to Honduras or you know or Hong Kong, both of those places. So at any rate, and they charge you a credit card fee, $5, 5% management, 5% credit card. 25% of people that propose a Kickstarter project are turned down. And they're turned down because people have violated their principles, their rules, which are not that complicated. They're looking for things that are illegal. They're looking for people that are trying to get equity partners. They're looking for people who have charities, who don't have a product. They want genuine creative products that you're bringing to the market, and that's why it's called Kickstarter. I will
Mhm.
point out this as I start talking about the 120 hours. But the first 30 hours, I think, is what you need to spend to understand Kickstarter. And by that, I mean looking at lots and lots and lots of offers in your category and other categories, see how it's done. Look at what they've done. I listen to uh, podcasts, lots of podcasts. I have a book that I will recommend. Yes, where's the book? Okay, the book that I found very, very helpful. Well, and there are lots of things about this, including YouTube things that are useful. The Hey Heather, welcome. I'm starting talking about a book that might be very helpful if you want to do your own Kickstarter program. It's called Your First Kickstarter Campaign. Pretty good title, right? And it's by a guy with a weird, unpronounceable name, uh, Vilius Stanislovitis. So if you can find Vilius Stanislovitis, you know what? I'll spell it in the chat. I found that a very, very helpful book. He goes into tremendous details, and I wish I had found his book earlier in my little journey. But I also hired a consultant. Um, but that's a grand way to put it. But I found somebody on Fiverr who says he's raised, you know, tens of millions of dollars with people, and I found him very helpful. I bought an hour. His hour, by the way, was $250. This hour is free. That's a good deal. And I will tell you what I got out of his hour for nothing. Um, so at any rate, uh, podcasts, a book or two. YouTube has lots of things. You just Google my first Kickstarter campaign and all kinds of stuff. Beware when you start doing this of the fact that you're going to be inundated by experts. You start doing this thing and suddenly you're going to get all kinds of unsolicited emails. And, I still get them on the Facebook, on the Kickstarter platform, people that want to give me the magic answer. And this guy, Stanislovitis, recommends ignoring them. A lot of the stuff that is basic, I had no idea what digital marketing is about. Kickstarter is called crowdfunding. And to crowdfund, you need to generate a crowd. And that was what I underestimated. So the guy on Fiverr that I looked at, if you do want, his name is Mattia, Mattia. I found him helpful. I paid 250 for another 250 or so. He does a thing where he gives you access to a lot of PowerPoints he has. I chose not to do that. I felt I got enough stuff from YouTube and the book that I mentioned. Where I fell down in my project, so that's the first 30 hours. Understand Kickstarter, look what other people are doing, get a sense, a feel for it. There are some basic things you're going to bump into that I wasn't prepared for. A Kickstarter account is easy to open and they'll just take you right away. They're going to want financial information. They're going to want your bank information to send money to, presumably, and they want your identification. What I did is I sent them a photo of my driver's license, and they do want that. And I think I mentioned 25% of projects are turned down, but I think you can easily avoid that by just looking at their instructions. So the first 30 hours is getting to understand Kickstarter. The second, and I said 30 hours, is building a crowd. And this is where I fell down, and I'll tell you how I know I fell down during that. I had an advantage going into it. I keep a database of 2,500 former hypnosis clients that I worked with for various things. Some of them are interested in this kind of stuff, some aren't. But I've kept the database and I was able to promote to them. I'm active in a couple of Facebook communities. I have Facebook followers. And it's recommended to do this. I set up a Facebook page for the offer. I then invited everybody, the 2,300 people I had that either follow or friend me on Facebook, to join that page. And last time I looked, I think it was about 200, 160 or something like that had joined that page. So they're becoming informed of what I was doing. I also had done a beta test. When I did my deck, I got 73 people who were willing to work with my Oracle deck. And we had, and I kept in touch with them. So they knew it was coming. They felt like they were a bit part of the process. And, I did some things that I have mixed feelings about. I did some spamming. I sent things to tarot readers and astrologers, and I got a couple of people saying they were annoyed, and I'll never do that again. And that didn't feel right, doing that, or effective, So how I know I fell down in this is that generally there's a misunderstanding people have about Kickstarter, that if you join Kickstarter, there's this mass of people that are going to rush to your store and buy your product. That seems logical, right? You put the product out, you think you're a great product, you believe in your product, you think a massive amount of people are going to come. It doesn't happen. Typically, 25% of the money people get on Kickstarter comes from Kickstarter. How I know I failed building a crowd is that 59% of my backers came directly from Kickstarter. They looked at what I offered and it appealed to them. And I'm a former ad guy, so I think I did a fairly decent job, but I failed at getting a crowd. And that's why if you're going to do a Kickstarter, I would put it at least 6 to 9 months to a year in the future to begin to build a crowd, to begin to build momentum and enthusiasm. And those of us who are in the Oracle Card Deck Facebook group know there's coaching about that. You know how you do that. There's ways to do that. That is where I fell down. But however, only 8% of my sales came from social media. Again, showing I failed somehow. The rest came from my clients. I did a few podcasts as well to try to promote it. Anyway, so that's the next 30 hours is building your community or whatever that ends up being. It may be understated, certainly. I'm going to show you, I'm going to do screen share. Oops. I want to show you, here it is. Okay, this is my offer. And as of today, $2,790 from 58 backers, and I've got 3 days to go. So the first thing you need to do, well, this is a video. It is highly recommended that you do a video. Products that have videos succeed at much higher level than products that don't. And generally, the video doesn't have to be fancy. It might even be worse if it's fancy. People apparently on Kickstarter, they're investing, they're supporting you. There's a lot of kindness in Kickstarter, a lot of mutual support. So I did this is my little video that I did. I did it on a product in July of 2023. Mozilla Personal Mind was asked to comb through all human wisdom through artificial intelligence to identify 64 principles essential for human evolution and personal growth. The result was the Universal Mind Map, Oracle system for personal transformation, a deck of 64 cards based on these principles. Artwork was also created by AI, but the text of each card is written or channeled by a human mind. The deck comes complete with a 160-page guidebook that gives you all the instructions you'll need to get started. By allowing Universal Mind to guide your journey of growth through random selection, you'll be experiencing a complete system for personal development that came not from the mind of one person, but from the mind of all humanity, the universal mind. If you are on a journey of personal growth and discovery, see what Universal Mind has for you. This is a curriculum for lifelong learning here in Spirit School, and enrollment starts April 15th, 2024 at 12 noon. Well, a couple of things there. One thing is it needs to be short. They have statistics about the drop-off, people that don't watch the whole thing or you don't even bother. And roughly a minute to a minute and a half, this was a minute and a half, is the right length. As you look at other people's offers, though, you'll see that some people do different things, you know? It can just be you talking. It doesn't have to be. I use an editing program. I'm able to do videos like this very easily. But if that's not something that you're comfortable with, you could hire somebody. And I mentioned earlier Fiverr. Fiverr is a source, Fiverr, of freelance talent. And Fiverr has a bunch of people who will make a video for you. And I looked at the quality of their work. I decided to do it myself because I could, but it seems reasonably priced and good quality work. So the first thing, and this thing I did get from that guy that I talked to, Mattia, on Fiverr, was establishing your goal. The success rate of Kickstarter projects is 41%. So 59% fail. Of those who fail, 15% get zero backers. They've obviously failed not only at crowd building, but at presenting a credible offer. Another 65% get less than 20% of their goal. And another 10% get 21 to 40. So what that leaves is basically You know, the people that have set their goal too high, 5% get 41 to 60% of the goal, and a despair rate, 5% get over close to 90%. So what they've done is they've set their goal too high, and the project has fallen off the rails. This guy suggested to me that I get a price or a goal that I thought I could achieve, and to me I did $1,650. He recommended not doing a goal that was so low, because basically Kickstarter pushes you up. Oh, maybe this is why I did well. Kickstarter pushes you up in the algorithms if you fund quickly. So if my goal had been, say, $3,000 instead of what it was, Kickstarter wouldn't be kind to me. It would be thinking I was struggling. But because I funded quickly, I funded within 36 hours, they pushed me up a little bit. I got another $1,200 out of that. So number one is you need a video. You need to set a goal that's achievable. When you join now this thing here, if you're not comfortable as a copywriter, you can give your ideas to somebody like one of those freelancers on Fiverr, and they'll do it for you. I wrote this for myself. And the left side here is the narrative. I explain where the concept, where it came from. By the way, this needs to be short on copy, big on visuals. People don't want to read a lot these days. So you want to have, a few words and then a visual that's catchy. So I tried that. I'm verbal. I'm verbose. I had to restrain myself. So basically, I showed product, a few of the cards, and some descriptions and interspacing copy. So it wasn't too tedious. And there's me. One of the things about Kickstarter, as I mentioned earlier, is generally people who do this thing say people on Kickstarter like to invest in people. They like to know who's the face behind the offer. So that's why I did this at my local Barnes and Noble. And I had several of my cards printed. You don't have to have a completed product to do Kickstarter. Let's say you're writing a book. You don't have to have written the book. You have to lay out what the book is. Ideally, you're going to have graphics showing the book cover, but you don't have to have the product in your hand. I've still got work to tweak up. And by the way, when you do Kickstarter, you promise a delivery date. I promised August, which feels reasonable to me and achievable. So you don't want to get yourself tight in having a date that's too quick to allow, manufacturing to occur. And let's see here. And okay, I added this thing. I put my book in here, and I'll explain how that works in a second. And then I did a beta test panel. So I put the little video in there. I won't bother you with that. And then talking about rewards. People, what tends to work is numerous, they're called rewards. Basically, these are offerings. And what tends to work is a range of offerings. The typical pledge on Kickstarter is about $30. Mine is higher for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, like 49 or something. But what I offered is for $19, the guidebook only. Because if you use my system with a random number generator, you can pull a card. I've been doing that for 7 months as I'm developing it. Just randomly pick a number and then read the text of that. But then I offer the complete system. And by the way, the graphics are important. If anybody doesn't know, Canva is a very simple way to create simple graphics. This stuff is not rocket science, but if you're not into it, there's a learning curve. And a lot of this stuff I wasn't into. So the guidebook and the deck and $37. And then I wrote a book 2 years ago that I self-published called My Autobiographies. It's about reincarnation, past life work. And I figured that my audience might be interested in that. And then I also added a top end thing. My guy suggested it's good to have a top end product. And this is the deck, my book, and an hour with me over Zoom for $270. And I sold one of those, amazingly. So over here you have, this is the like the record of what went on. So $19 for the book only, I sold zero. 37, I sold only five. And the reason is that I offered an early adopter discount. I gave $10 off for the first 45 people that pledged. Because again, I wanted the Kickstarter to show a quick upsurge of backing. So I threw that in. I would highly suggest that a discount. I forget who it was who had that graphic when we first started with the you know, people love graphics with discounts. Anyway, then the book and the deck, I got three people to buy that. Three. And then I offer multiple copies of it. Uh, two decks, $65. I got two people that bought that. And then I offered three for $90, one person. And then the $270, and I got one. So there's still 19 left out of 20. And that information about having multiple price points with a high end to kind of attract people. So suddenly the $35, $30 doesn't seem very much, is wise. So I mentioned 30, 30, and 30. So 30 hours finding out about Kickstarter, 30 hours designing your offer is part of it. To really and talk to people, get other people's opinions, um, and suggesting again multiple rewards. There's also a thing on Kickstarter called stretch goals. And a stretch goal is an unofficial thing. It's between you and your people. And my first stretch goal was I created two bonus cards that weren't suggested by artificial intelligence. They were just my own thoughts, a day off and the day you die. Where if you pick this card, you spend a day looking at your life from the perspective of mortality. Everybody knows you go to a funeral, and for a day or so, you're aware that life's not forever, and then we all forget it. Everybody. So if you pick this card, you get to think about that a little bit. Let's see here. And then I added another goal. This had been, by the way, you can't change the amount you're asking to raise. Once I said 1650, it was 1650. You can't change that. You can't change the rewards once someone buys one. You can remove them, modify them until someone buys them, backs them, and then they're locked in. The stretch goals you can change. So when I noticed I was getting close to 3,000, this had been 3,500, I reduced it to 3 in the hopes that that'll be motivation to people. And what I'm offering there is Zoom coaching based on the deck. I've got a date in September, and if we reach the $3,000, I will do a group coaching, discussing people's experience with the deck, and probably doing a hypnotic meditation at the end of it about living the best life you possibly can. So let's see, and then you add other stuff. I got interviews. This one was with our friend. Those of us from Katia. I'm not sure I'm saying her name, Katia. She's a lovely, lovely woman. She runs this Facebook group where she helps people, promotes people who are making Oracle decks, believe it or not. And then they want risks and challenges. You have to tell them honestly. And by the way, honesty is a good principle in Kickstarter. They even talk about that in their rules. You want to be transparent. So if there are risks or challenges, you need to put them there. They ask about the use of AI. They don't rule out a project based on AI, as far as I know, provided you tell them. If you don't tell them, then and they find out, then they will rule you out. So I did explain exactly what parts of my project were. By the way, when you go on Kickstarter, you apply to launch a project, and then you get accepted. And I mentioned, what I forget what I said, 25% of people are turned down. I got accepted very quick, and but they're going to look at things like this, your AI use, that kind of thing. Your they don't look, by the way, as far as I know, for quality of presentation. They're looking for things like, are you trying to raise money for a charity? Is there anything illegal uh, on your product? And let's see, they asked for sustainable materials. I thought about this, and this is where all the hours came in. I suddenly said sustainable materials. And so I asked the manufacturers that I had, and they were very vague. But I realized that the packaging I'm going to use has 30% recyclable material. So I put that in there. Is that important? I have no idea. And now the last 30 hours, once you start a project, you have to communicate with people. And if I hadn't heard this, it would have really, really bothered me. Uh, I had heard before that some people drop out. I lost 6 people along the way. By the way, this over here is the dashboard. 6 people who had signed up dropped out. I have no idea why. But because, like you now know, having been through this time with me, people are going to drop out. The dashboard tells you what's going on. It shows you, like here, you can see how rapidly it funded. And then this rest was incremental, and that's typical. Typically, there's a spurt toward the end. Hopefully, I'm going to see that. They tell you where things came from, and that's how I know I failed at raising a huge audience surrounding the project. I did not succeed. People on Kickstarter liked it. My clients liked it to a degree. Uh, these are custom referral tags you can use on social media. Uh, Followers are interesting. Even before your project launches, once it's up there, once it's approved, people will see your presentation page. You need to do like a JPEG graphic of a presentation page of your offer, and they begin to follow you. And I've got 60 followers currently, and of that, 21% have converted. They either found me on Facebook, on Kickstarter, or I sent them there and they clicked, I want to follow this project. So this is interesting. Video plays. Uh, Only 42% of people finished all my video. Isn't that, even though it's only a minute and 32 seconds? That tells you why, if you're thinking about doing a video and you're thinking about 3 minutes, no, shorter would be better. I could have made that shorter. This tells you which rewards. These are all the early adopter rewards. You can do updates, and we show updates here. And updates, when you do an update, this goes out to people who've already supported you or who follow you. And when I reach the stretch, the first one I did is they'll be funded. So basically, thank everybody for funding me, just funded. I get these graphics or something called Big Stock, and they're $3 each. So, but I like to use stuff that I know is legal, And then looks like there was an interview I did. I announced that, changed in stretch goals, and there's also, once part of the 30 hours is, once all this is done, you need to create surveys. And the survey is designed to gather information so you can ship. Kickstarter doesn't automatically tell you to ship to, you do a survey. And so I got a little 60 here, a little thank you. First, I'd like to thank you for your support, and also to congratulate you on making a decision to put yourself in this course of study based on the best thinking of humanity, 64 principles that each of us have to master, or at least address. That basically is what I had to share with you. I am not an expert in this, not even close. But, I ran this Kickstarter and it did okay. It does help to get other people involved in your project. I don't know everything. It's nice to be teachable. So we got some time if you want. I got only answer questions, but that's what I know about Kickstarter.
I did myself. I was wondering how you selected 1650 as your goal when my sense is you weren't clear about what, how many you were making, what it would cost to produce X number of decks and so forth. So that's not a criticism. I'm just saying,
No, 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 that's a good question. No, I was
how did
absolutely
you
clear.
select your goal? Because that's
That,
what I was wondering.
that was enough to print the deck and pay some of the development costs.
Oh, okay.
It was a number that, I felt I would go forward with the project on. And maybe that's the way to look at it. What is the number at which you would go on with the project? Uh, and it's usually a smaller number than what you hope for. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll tell you this interesting thing. This is a fact. On Kickstarter, the best day and time to start a Kickstarter is a Tuesday between 11 and 1 o'clock.
Okay.
That's statistical. The way I chose Tuesday at 12 o'clock was I went help me, an astrologer. And she told me Tuesday, 12 o'clock. That's the day to go. Uh,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I know one. Yeah.
I'm not the tidiest business person, logically.
No, but there were some aspects because that April 15th was your launch.
Yeah,
Yeah, there were some aspects that were, yeah, I know why she said that. Okay.
yeah. And it worked out just fine.
If I may, because I've been trying to figure out how the whole process works. I've just recently started thinking about doing a crowdfunding. And I realized that in setting the goal, there's also a psychological element to it, which is if your goal is too high and you struggle getting it to it, people coming onto the project will see, oh, this is not picking up. Psychologically, it's extremely negative. If you have a lower goal and you get your full goal attained in whatever time and then just kicks off and people think, oh, something's happening. This must be really interesting. It's completely irrational, but I think it also works if you have a lower goal because people just feel that, hey, this is up to something. I was curious, John, and thank you, by the way, for doing this. Did you actually survey different crowdfunding programs like Indiegogo or CrowdFundMe or whatever? Did you select Kickstarter for some specific reason, or was it just,
It was just pure stupidity. It was the only one I knew of. Simple as that. I am not a crowdfunding expert. It was the only one I knew of. I found out afterwards about Indiegogo that has, a different philosophy attached to it. That's the only other one I know of. And in Indiegogo, I don't think you have to fully fund. I think in Indiegogo you can fund partially. I got no idea which is better at all.
Yeah.
John, I have a question.
Yeah, shoot, please.
So now that you are an expert at Kickstarter because you've done the process, do you feel that it has been a successful and worthwhile endeavor?
Yeah,
And
I
you've
reached my
set this goal and you have your stretch goals. Over what period of time does your project run? Like when did you start it? When is it
that's
considered
such a good
completed?
question. That's such a good question. People make a mistake. Everything I've read and heard is that you want it to be short duration. 30 days is about the right time. Some people look at 3 months, thinking that it'll be out there for a long while. What tends to work is a shorter duration, like 30 days tends to be standard. And my intention is to get a real publisher. I don't want to print this myself. I did this project entirely on Kickstarter to catch the attention of a real publisher. And I got two that are interested as a result of that. That's why I did this project. I wanted to show that there's interest in this. And the fact that the Kickstarter community liked the product better than my social media community says, I think I've got something that's unique. And I wanted to catch the attention of a publisher with that.
Thank you.
And I published my first book myself. And people tell me that the publishers don't do that much for you, but I go into Walden Books, or not Walden, I go into Barnes and Noble. I want my deck to be on that shelf. That's my goal. And I don't know how to get it there myself. My book, I've got 39 5-star reviews People love my book. But I tell people it's like you have a bookstore, and this little bookstore, then you've got miles and miles of ancillary warehouse bookstore. And my book is on miles and miles of ancillary, books. And I don't want my deck to sit next to it.
Mhm. Thank you.
So shall we wrap it up? Thank you all for joining me in this thing. By the way, I had a great time doing this when all is said and done. But 100, 120, 130 hours, make sure you understand what you're getting into. I didn't. So, bye for now.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
John.
Thanks a lot for sharing.
Awesome.
Stay in
Bye.
touch. Bye-bye.
Extremely helpful.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.